Let's get into busts. How we define our bust selections is essentially players that we don't like the ADP. We don't think they will live up to those expectations of the ADP. So, Barry, with that being said, who made your bust list here?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, so we already talked about Najee Harris a little bit at the top. He was my so I'm certainly nervous about him relative to ADP of Jalen Warren, but I'm going to say George Kittle. Okay. There were 7 games last year in which Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk were all active. He had a 15.7% target share. He had 8 different games with fewer than 30 receiving yards. He had 7 different games with fewer than 8 fantasy points. We love George Kittle on the show. Love him as a person. He's a friend of the podcast. He's been on our show. He's a phenomenal talent. The problem is A, there's a lot of mouths to feed. He is somebody that has been injury prone previously in his career, and he's an unbelievable blocker. And so there's a chance that he will contribute significantly to the 49ers and still not be a great fantasy option for us, or at least a consistent fantasy option, because they need him to block. And because they have so many other weapons in that passing game. He feels very touchdown dependent to me, which a lot of tight ends are, and that's fine, except the issue is that his ADP is tight end 5. Like he's being drafted as not a touchdown dependent tight end, and I think I'd much rather wait a couple of rounds and get Dallas Goedert, than where George Kittle is going. So it's not that I quote unquote hate George Kittle, but I think relative to where he's going, I think he'll be a bust.
Yeah, I think we forget that 2 years ago, Deebo Samuel was the second best wide receiver in football behind Cooper Kupp. And I think that Deebo, who was banged up last year, will see more of the offense as well as Ayuk and Kittle will suffer as a result of that.
So I went with TJ Hawkinson here, and this isn't that TJ Hawkinson won't be a top 6 tight end in fantasy football, but I have seen him drafted significantly early. He's always taken his tight end 3 off the board. He's had quietly had a weird summer. It's apparently an ear infection that was why he hasn't practiced for a while, but it also could be contract related. There's a lot going on there that's kept Hawkinson away from the field. And quite frankly, guys, I'm just not particularly interested in drafting TJ Hawkinson to be closer to Mark Andrews. I'd rather wait on the tight end market instead. Even Darren Waller is behind a guy like Hawkinson. Waller could have more yards as well if he stays healthy. I understand there's targets out of this offense with Adam Thielen leaving, and we talk about Jordan Addison a lot, KJ Osborne a little bit. A lot of people are funneling them to Hawkinson, and he might get them. I don't see the upside play here, though, that drafts are indicating.
The upside play is what he did last year. I mean, he was a top 4 fantasy tight end once he got to Minnesota, and he was just there trying to learn the playbook. And now he's had all offseason to get familiar with Kevin O'Connell's offense, to get familiar with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, throughout his career, has always been somebody that has used the tight end a lot. You think about all the years with Jordan Reed in Washington. So that's the upside play on TJ Hawkinson. And he's also, he's really good. I'm sure he was your highest-rated tight end the year he came out.
I believe so. I'd have to look back at that draft. I just don't see.
But he was one of those guys. I mean, he was a guy that went very high in the draft, and no one was just like, what are the Lions doing?
Yeah, that's fair. But then they traded him, which is very bizarre after using a top 10 pick.
This is true for a team that's on the rise. So.
Indeed. My bust pick, and I hesitate to say this because I do love him, and I think Dynasty, he's still an excellent option, but Breece Hall relative to ADP.
Don't, Connor, no, Connor, stop it, Connor.
He's going ahead of Damian Pierce at the moment, and he's going in the same range as guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and just a little bit after Joe Mixon and Travis Etienne. There's just too much uncertainty. They paid Dalvin Cook. I think they're going to ease him back. There's no reason to run him into the ground. So I'm not getting Breece Hall in any draft.
You have to have a plan for September. So it depends how far he falls, which sometimes it overcorrects. But you're right. His ADP is very high right now.
The 2 biggest Jets fans on this table, and both of you guys, sitting here, especially you.
I do love my Jets.
I know you supposedly are.
For years.
We're interviewing Sauce Gardner on Monday, and I'm going to play this clip back for him. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.